Hi friends. I didn't expect to be doing another video tonight, but you know, it doesn't pay to have expectations, does it? Then you're never disappointed. And maybe you only think I'm joking, but I'm not. The lunar eclipse of the full moon begins in a few hours. I think it starts at 1:30 in the morning or something in one of the time zones here in the US. You'll have to look it up where you are. I'll try to get this out so a few of you can see it. I think the eclipse is supposed to last like 72 minutes. So overall it's like over 3 hours between when it's building, when it's full, 72 minutes, and then when it's leaving. So there will be plenty of time, and hopefully for those that want to see it, you won't have so much cloud cover and you'll be able to see it. I feel like it's going to have very long-lasting and far-reaching effects. It's apparently only 2 degrees off galactic center. I'm no astrologer. I don't know how, or astronomer. I don't know how those things, such things as that, are calculated. I never messed with the galaxy. I didn't even mess with the asteroids. And so I don't know why. I'm not feeling as burdened as I was earlier. The energy doesn't feel as heavy, maybe from working through some things in the previous video journal. I'm not certain, but I'm feeling really good and very positive and upbeat within my heart. And there was something I was just pondering that I haven't spoken of before, but it's, you know, I think I do still have a couple of questions left. Most all of my questions are gone. Things that are, most curiosity is mental, and things that don't have a really deep relevance to my now just don't interest me. But I was just reading something by someone who is so very right on in so much of what this person says. I don't know, it feels like a he. It's probably a he. I don't know if it's a he or a she. But I've heard individuals stomping their foot for intensity, for emphasis almost. There is no hierarchy. Everyone and everything is equal. And I've heard this before, and I thought, and I put it in heart, and I just left it there. And it's been simmering in that pot a good long while. And so as I started to take it out and work with it and begin to work through it and discover what it is that has been gained and learned and whatever's in heart, something told me to go ahead and share it, and thus the video. Okay, we know as we're entering levels of higher consciousness, and all of us are, as you step from the head to the heart, you're entering higher consciousness. Hello, that's what that is. As you cut yourself loose from the shackles of mind, you're entering higher consciousness. Mind will keep us firmly bound to 3D. It's a possibility that I'm playing with, that mind is 3D, that time, space, and mind and ego are all roughly equal. I don't know, okay, but that's not what this is about. I'm just saying we're getting into higher consciousness. All of us are. The vibrations are buoying us up. We're receiving solar radiation and radiation from the galaxy. We're receiving all kinds of radiation at a time when the magnetic field around the Earth is changing and very much weakened. And so more of that radiance is penetrating. And also the magnetic field around the sun is weaker than it has been. And so more of its magnificent radiance is escaping and, coming to the solar system. So all of this is acting to assist us. We don't really have such things as physical bodies anymore. Now, I could make a really good case for the reality that we never did, being that atoms are empty and all solid matter in the human body fits in a thimble and doesn't fill it. So, matter isn't what we think it is. Nothing is what we think it is. But the things that we think help us talk and communicate, and that's what I'm doing here. So they're handy because they're joint frames of reference that we can use. But let's use it like a spiral ladder so that we can go up and up and up and walk ourselves right on up out of here. We have heavenly assistance, we have galactic and cosmic assistance. We have all kinds of help and support. And so this is the time for this. This is absolutely the time for this. So settle down in heart and let's see where we go here. Okay, there are people that are absolutely insistent that all hierarchy is false, that there is no such thing. Now, as we rise in consciousness in the planes and dimensions, very quickly we begin to contain both opposites, things that used to polarize us. We can now see the perspective from both sides that much easier. Now, this is to the extent that we've surrendered total reliance on mind and belief in thought. Again, Byron Katie is the best prescription I know of. If you believe your thoughts, then I prescribe, a good dose of Byron Katie for you. 72 hours, you should be fine. All right. So we begin to see how the structure of a higher reality is paradox. Everywhere we look, it's paradoxical. It's like Dimitri Halley says, we're used to thinking of an emotion as a polarized thing. It's either a hate or a love, a joy or a sadness, a depression, or, it's an either or. You have one or the other. And yet now we're finding that it's not like that at all. And it's more like a seesaw or a teeter-totter. And the point to be is the balanced point in the middle. And so from the middle, if you're gonna play with the seesaw, you have to have two beings, one to sit on either side. And so as one goes up, the other goes down, and so on. And this is the game, But if you're at the point of balance, one can do it. And the one can play both parts just by the leaning, having one foot to either side of the central balance point. And so we find the view from just a very small way up in conscious awareness to be very different. I mean, it's easy enough to look at and to see and to talk about here, but when we look at the graphic difference this can make in the whole world scene, were this understanding to propagate, out into the fractal, and everyone to realize that they just need to step back from the mind and from belief and thought, and then we wouldn't be polarizing, and then I think the natural radiance that's present would carry us all up. So add to that stepping into heart, and oh my God, you've got a prescription for ascension going on. So as we step up then, what we're finding is that the teeter-totter, the seesaw, that these are two sides of one thing, the one coin, if you will, that has two sides. And yet it's a unity. It has a duality, but that doesn't break up its unity. And that, I think, is where I'm going with the concept of hierarchy. Because we have a union and a unity that's all-encompassing. There is the one. People are always talking about this oneness, and I think pretty much everybody means something different by it. And so it doesn't pay to think that we know what that word means. We really have to read the vibration and the frequency. We really have to tune in to the individual that's speaking to see what's being said there, because that word is fast becoming close to useless. It doesn't have a clear enough definition anymore. All right? And so there is an overall oneness that is contactable and experienceable in heart. And anyone, anywhere, anyone can literally say, I am that. And because of this oneness, that's a very real, experienceable, perceptible thing. We can commune with anything and anyone. I mean, even a flea, or, you know, your earring, or anything, a table, it doesn't matter, you know, the stones, anything and everything has conscious awareness of one sort or another. And I am that. And we can even have a mystical experience where all of a sudden we become, literally become everything, let's say, in the room. And you get to experience tableness, and I hope not TV-ness, but, you know, statue-ness and doiliness and carpetness and wallness and all of it. I mean, to actually, it's a point of perspective. The material creation, it's points of perspective. Maybe that's what an atom is in reality. I don't know, okay? I'm just working through stuff in my journal here. But I am that is literally true. And it's very helpful to take it in, put it in heart, and see if you can accept it. Because in your acceptance of it, what happens is it's alchemical. And it will have like a chemical reaction inside of you with all of your thoughts and beliefs that go against it. And it will drive them up to the surface for you to look at and to consider and to vote yay or nay, you know, and to sort through that. And so it's a good way to get rid of some beliefs, you know, and take the ones that resonate with you in your now. Where I was 20 years ago has very little bearing on where I am now. Even though time isn't, and everything is simultaneous, I can still say that, you know. You have to stick to now. This magical, this mystical now, that even though it's simultaneous, even though I'm living every one of my lifetimes, including the ones in the future right now, it's still this now focused in this point of perspective, this body that is uppermost in my awareness. And this is where I need to be. This is the doorway to the all and to the everything is in the here and now. And so what resonates now is what counts. And we have to be willing to be unattached to whatever it was that we were and all those things we thought about ourselves. Those are just more beliefs, more thought constructs, more ideas that are on their way out the door, whether we know it or not. It's happening. Okay, we're receiving enough cosmic aid and assistance here that a lot of this is going on pretty much painlessly, you know. But our free will consent is required for a lot of things, and so it pays to be centered in heart and able to turn on a dime. And so you don't have expectations about the future. We need to ditch this worrying about 2012 stuff. It's not, it's now. Okay? You are now. And your now, I just did a journal, your now contains 2012. as you are present in and loyal to your now, absolutely everything that's needful is covered, is taken care of, and you're not even doing it. It's happening through you. Eckhart Tolle calls it being danced, and I think he took that from the awareness guy, DeMello, Anthony DeMello. I found a number of things that Eckhart said that I thought were original to him because he didn't give attribution, but I found them when I was listening to and reading Anthony DeMello's work. So that's interesting. I try to let you know where I get my ideas, but I probably do the same thing, you know, without meaning to. We do these things without meaning to. So anyway, we have the now. And the now somehow enfolds and contains it all. And don't play with this with the mind. Leave the mind off to the side. Let it chatter or mutter or murmur or bitch and moan. Just don't care. All right? That would be my advice. Don't care. Because it's not going to be helpful. It has nothing to offer that's useful. The only thing it has to offer is impediment. Now, impediment can be fun sometimes, you know. Sometimes you want to drink a beer, smoke a cigarette, whatever, you know, drive a fast car. Is it good for the soul? Well, you know, whatever. There's not really a good and a bad. That's a part of the polarity thing, because you know what? We're both. And what we need here is balance. We need to stand centered over the teeter-totter. And in that way, we have balance and ability to manage both sides with ease. And so we find that point in the now. Now, let's look at hierarchy. We've just been looking at time. And like I said earlier, time is space. And if you move in one, you move in the other. And so, time is simultaneous, and yet it's also all contained right here in this now. And so what we have there is we have the infinity of points, the multiplicity, but we also have the one. And they're both wrapped up together in some way that maybe when we're on 6, 7, and 8D, we'll understand. Right now, though, the thing is, the understanding isn't necessary. My dear friends, understanding isn't necessary. What you have right now by way of understanding is sufficient. And if you have a heart that is seeking an answer to a certain thing, follow it and trust that you are being led to that thing. That's what I'm doing here right now. Okay? What I have is sufficient. What I have is this push and this urge in my heart to pursue this thing concerning hierarchy. And so in this way, my understanding and awareness will grow. It all takes care of itself. It really does. If we just be in heart and be in now, the rest of it is just handled. And it's handled through us, but it's not like we're doing a doing. You know, it's more like it's doing us. And that's one of those things, it doesn't need to make any sense. It will someday or it won't. It doesn't matter. All that matters is now. All that matters is what resonates in your now, in my now. Okay, hierarchy. So just like with time, we have the simultaneous, but we also have all the minutes and all of that stretched out. I have all my lifetimes that are going on right now, very comfortably, wherever they are, stretched out on the timeline. But it's all now. It's all one. And were I to desire to do so, I could move myself in consciousness anywhere among them, because they're all now. They're inside of me. They're inside. The heart is this magical, mystical box that somehow contains everything. So, hierarchy. People want to get out from under thinking that anybody else is better than them. And I think that needs to be recognized. People want to get out from under thinking they have to answer to anyone. Same thing. And people want to be in charge, to rule, and be in control. So we have things underlying why we want to believe certain things and why we maintain certain beliefs. Now, I grew up in the Catholic Church until probably my 30s. I was with it, or, maybe mid-20s or something. It just couldn't answer all of my questions beyond a certain point, and my heart just had to know, and that's just how that was. And so I went church hopping. I didn't care, I just wanted to find a place where my heart could open up in prayer and song and just worship. That was the desire. And it's a beautiful, hungry time in life, but don't let me divert myself here. Okay, so there's an understanding of hierarchy that we get there, or that we get in school, the ninth grader and the seventh grader and the first, all of that stuff. And then there's the teachers, and then there's the administrators. And so we have hierarchies and pyramids all over the place. And they don't necessarily function very well, do they? According to Alex Collier, who works directly with the Andromedans, who are fifth density beings, and very familiar with the galactic life and all of the different beings and sorts of beings and civilizations and planets and suns and stars and so on. Most of them don't have this pyramidal type thing. They have something that is more like a hologram, so that you can cut it up in little pieces and it doesn't fall apart because every piece contains the whole. Whereas if you mess around with the pyramidal or the hierarchical structure, it doesn't work like that, and you can incapacitate it. And so it's a much more vulnerable structure. It's more of a 3D kind of a structure, I guess. I don't know. See, we were goofed up from the get-go by our whole concept of time. The way we look at time is so screwy that when other races and civilizations of beings try to commune with us, there's always this disconnect when it comes to them trying to translate their understandings into our concept of time, which is just such a non-starter. It doesn't work. It just doesn't work. And the way the Catholic Church took time, I mean, what the Aboriginal people, what the native peoples around the world once had as an understanding of time was sacred, and was it had something to do with the heavens and the stars, but it was also sacred and spiritual. And it was very important. Millions, literally millions, many, many millions of people were killed in order to enforce the Gregorian calendar on them. And we all know the tale. Well, not we all. That was quite an assumption. And all the native peoples, their culture was rubbed out, destroyed, burned, all of their sacred writings, their books, and so on, so that we wouldn't have that going forward, because they wanted to lie about it. Okay, they wanted to brainwash us in a certain way, and they didn't want a better option laying around, ready to come up and get in their way. And so they did all they could to destroy it. And so the concept of time being so mechanical, the third rock from the sun kind of a thing, how many spins around and then how many orbits around, and all of this kind of thing. It's very linear, and it's meant to be mechanical, and to have nothing of any kind of spirituality attached to it. And it's just wrong. It's dead. It's not that it's wrong, it's dead. It has no life in it. And so, but unfortunately, it's like Ian Lungold says in his lectures, the calendar, the date, the time is the central point for a culture, for a civilization. Everything is done in terms of that. I highly recommend, again, the website Mayan Magics, M-A-J-I-X, mayanmagics.com. And there are numerous free lectures there, 2 and 3 hour lectures by Ian Lungold on the Mayan calendar. And you get so much more from them than it's spiritual work. You know, we have the whole wrong concept of time. And if you want to begin to get underneath the underpinnings of all the beliefs that you've been stuffed and programmed with about time, listen to one of those lectures. That will get the work going, and that will get you inspired, and you'll be looking at things in a different way, and then that will bring up, you know, when you put truth in, it's got that alchemical thing going on, and it stirs up the pot, and everything that disagrees with this truth will rise to the surface to be looked at, because something's got to go. And so the choice has to be made, this or that. And so the use of free will is very good. All right. I guess maybe I'm wandering a little bit from the concept of hierarchy, but I'm trying to feel my way through, because, you know, what we've got going on in the creation, now we're just looking at in the creation, and the creation isn't the only thing that is, because there is also the emptiness, the void, whatever we want to call it. This has no thing in it. It's not the creation. It's an absence of. And so that's something else. So admittedly, I'm not talking about everything that is and isn't right now. I'm just talking about the creation, the cosmos. All right, distracted myself there. In the creation, what we're dealing with is vibration and frequency. Everything is energy, and energy vibrates. And so you have beings that are of such high frequency, such great light and attainment, such purity, divinity, whatever, you know, it's high frequency, really, really high. And there's power there. And it's like taking the megavolt energy from the power station and trying to run it into your electric shaver. It destroys it in a heartbeat, you know. You could burn the place down. And so that's a sort of hierarchy, isn't it? And it's just a physics thing. But what we have is a cosmos whose foundation is love. And so we don't have these beings of such intensity and pitch of frequency placing themselves in front of you or in front of me. We would sizzle and fry, you know, we couldn't handle it. And so I want to put in a word for hierarchy. It's not in the concept that the mind is used to thinking of hierarchy, but we're not thinking here, folks. Okay? If you're on this journey with me, you're learning to work without thought. We're working in heart, and it's different. Everything, I keep saying this, everything is different. It's different all over the place. It might appear on the surface of things to be similar or the same, but everything perceptually is different. And so we have such love, such care, and such tenderness as can be seen in the study of the near-death experiences. Now, you don't have to go put that as a search in and listen to 500 hours of it. I can recommend 3 individual experiencers that if you studied what they have to offer, you would have such a well-rounded and a well-grounded understanding. It would be sufficient, and the rest would just be icing on the cake. Mellen Thomas Benedict, Mellen-Thomas, I'll put links in the transcript. He is the only one that we know of that goes back daily into the light. He's trained himself to do this, and he brings back things. He works with science, and he is the most studied, perhaps, NDEer, near-death experiencer. And he solves scientific problems. He goes into the light and he asks his questions and he gets answers and he brings them back. That's pretty darn cool. I mean, it doesn't hardly get better than that when we're talking about a subject so ephemeral seeming as the NDE. So Mayan anchors it in 3D pretty darn well. For your humor, I will give you Dannion Brinkley. He had 3 different near-death experiences and went from a real rowdy and a ruffian into just a servant of mankind. He works in hospice and has a whole organization that he trains. They do tremendous service work for the veterans. Dannion Brinkley. Betty Eadie, E-A-D-I-E. I cried and I cried and I cried, was so deeply touched by her death experiences. And the other one would be PMH Atwater. And she's really great too. She came back angry. A lot of them do. They come back angry. First of all, they don't want to have to come back. And second of all, they're so changed that they have to watch their whole world literally crumble and fall apart because nothing's the same anymore on the inside, so the outside is a reflection of the inside, and that's just not an easy row to hoe. And with those, you have so very much that will show you the beauty and the delicacy, the love that is built into the hierarchy of those who help us. I mean, what are we doing here? We reach out to others, right? My great joy is service. All light beings have this. Our great joy, it feeds us. It doesn't take from us. It nurtures us. It feeds us to share and to give and to let the light shine through. Well, why would it be any as above, so below, as below, so above? This goes on everywhere, and everything is infinitely, exquisitely designed. It's perfection. It's absolute perfection. And so it's maybe like a daisy chain. You know, no matter where you are, on the one hand, you're one. You can say, I am that, and you are everything. My favorite saying, well, one of them, these eyes through which I had hoped to see God are the eyes through which God sees me. Okay, delightfully pretzels the mind. It's meant to do that. And in the interval where the mind has short-circuited, you're in oneness. You're in heart, you're in wholeness, you're in peace, you're in silence. Sorry to be filling it up with all of these words. Anyway, so I want to say to those of you that have this belief that there is no hierarchy, I think you're only seeing a portion of the truth. Because when we say, I am that, that is absolutely, there is no hierarchy in that. Whether I'm a pebble on, you know, the sand, or whether I'm a blazing sun, there's no better or worse. The Andromedans are, no, it's the Syrians. The Syrian High Council through Patricia Corey take effort to make it a point. They are sixth dimensity. That's a good one. They are sixth density beings, or sixth dimensional beings. They call it density. They don't call it dimensions. Anyway, and the Andromedans are on fifth density. And we are here on third and fourth density. I think fourth density is probably time, you know, the time thing. But anyway, The Syrian High Council makes it a point in their writings to say sixth is not better than fifth. It's not that you, like school, you graduate from the fifth and then you get to go to the sixth. It's different. It's different, and we have to cast out all of our linear beliefs. They all need to go. They don't work anymore. And one isn't better than the other, and the pebble isn't better than the sun, or vice versa. So there is that union, that oneness, that I don't have good words for it. There is that. But there is also the beauty of the scales and the ranges of frequency and density on the various, well, densities or dimensions that is hierarchical in a way. And don't you have great joy in learning and in growing and expanding and gaining as we gain experience? And we also grow in knowledge and understanding. And there always are going to be those whose store of wisdom, knowledge, and understanding is greater. It's all one. Yes, we have access to the one. Technically, theoretically, being the one, I am both the pebble and the sun. I am both the student and the teacher. This is so. But let's look at it this way. I was just pondering. Here I am, this one being, and I bet a lot of you have pondered on this. I know, and I know for a fact, I have experience of a number of my own embodiments, and I have felt what it felt like to be that. It's not a mental thing. It's experiential, and you are that. And so I have that. And I know that all of those lifetimes are now. All right? And so I wonder, though, why do I seem, for the most part, restricted to Teresa Ann and to this incarnation? That other is here, but it is more here as potential. Now, when the higher density beings look at us from the higher density, they don't see me as Teresa Ann. What they see is the one being, but they see all of the incarnations. See, this is a oneness. There's one soul is probably an essence or something, you know, the one central core of the being that I am, that is the same me that's in all of those. That's a oneness that they can see. When they look at you or me, they see the wholeness of that. Okay? Now, we don't quite know how that works. Because instead of talking to me as Attila the Hun or whatever I am in some other incarnation, they're communicating with the Teresa Ann aspect of that. But they see the whole of it. Now, here's the interesting part. When they look at us, they see this wholeness and this completeness of all of the incarnations of the being. But they can't see into themselves this way. It takes those on higher densities above them to be able to look at them in this same way. And so there's endless fascination, joy, beauty, exploration built in here. It's divine. It's exquisite. This creation is beyond the beyond, and we can take the greatest imagination within heart. We've left mind so in the dust here. The imagination of your heart and of your soul, of your inner being is very great, and we create after that. We're creators as well. We're taking some baby steps here, but we're coming into remembrance. This is not the time that any of us need to be taught anything new. These things are known inside of us. And you know what that feels like. When you hear something and it resonates, you know that feeling. That's a remembering, okay? Or the start of it, or whatever. It's connecting us with what we already are and with what we already know. Now, it's a given, beings on Earth have been severely tampered with, okay? So I suspect that we are an exception. God bless them, you know, to a lot of the life in the cosmos. And no doubt we're very challenging to deal with in our mucked up state. But that's all being sorted out now. Praise Source. And we have a lot of cosmic aid and assistance because, you know, imagine the fractal, if you will. When you make the Mandelbrot set, you know, the beautiful images of the fractal, where no matter how deeply you go into it, it's the same. No matter how far you pull out of it, it's the same. And so you can go anywhere in there and you can make a change, and it immediately propagates out through the whole. What I'm saying here is that all of our fighting and our warring and our hating and our manipulating and being manipulated, all of this has been very painful for the rest of the one to experience, because we are one. Just pretend you're an empath, you know, and you're going to a Saturday night wrestling match or something where tempers flare and all that kind of thing. It's painful. See, every thought, word, and deed, every movement of consciousness that we have propagates out. And we influence all of cosmos, literally. I mean, you know, we could keep it to the galaxy here. That would be handy and maybe easier to work with. But certainly the beings that share the galaxy with us, even if they're on other dimensions, it doesn't matter. We're all one. And we all affect and influence one another. And so it is literally in their best interest to help us, because by helping us, they help themselves. And so I would suggest that there is a very loving form of hierarchy woven in to the one as one side of the coin. The other side would be the oneness. And I would be very interested in what the rest of you might have to share. Thank you. And go watch the eclipse if you're called to do so. And happy solstice.